Hi, I'm Christina. Welcome to this episode of Women's Health, Wealth, and Happiness Interviews to Inspire. This episode is sponsored by 1 Minute Calm. Breathe, live, and love the moment that you're in. Our next guest will welcome you with her warmth, smile, and laughter. As a seasoned market strategist, she has turned her passion towards helping women in business navigate today's rapidly evolving business landscape. As a storytelling coach, Amy empowers individuals to find and share their stories, refining their speaking skills and delivering impactful presentations. Her creativity shines in customized marketing strategies and fostering meaningful connections. She uses her voice with compelling stories and practical tips to inspire positive change. As a nomadic entrepreneur, Amy loves to travel and embrace a location-independent lifestyle, running her business while exploring new local cultures and fostering strong relationships. She's about to share with us her 3 C's. Join me in welcoming our next guest, Amy.
Hello, thank you for having me on the show today. This is so much fun to talk about my 3 C's. And
Awesome.
so my 3 C's are clarity, courage, and confidence. And what those mean to me are clarity of self. Who are you being? Like, we all need to know who we are showing up and what we're doing to really know who we are. And then it's the courage. To me, courage is taking action to do something about, to propel my life forward. And I encourage women to see what is in kind of what's stopping them and what can they do about it, because we all have the power to do something. And then the confidence to be me, the confidence to be you in whatever situation you find yourself in. Because sometimes it's a little intimidating to be in the room, like when you're not comfortable and you just want to, like, for me, I want to get in, like, at one point, I'm like, can I just hide under the desk? Like, I would love to do that right now, but that's not always possible. Instead, I just embrace who I am and I'm like, they like me, they like me, they don't. Okay. That is me.
Tell us a little bit about your journey, what you do every day.
So I started my career as a graphic designer because I love the world of color and beauty and design and patterns. And I love to make things. And I always used to cringe when clients would be like, make it pretty. But I love that, right? But what I found was I wanted more. I wanted the interaction with the people that I was interacting with, the owners. I wanted to know what was happening in their lives. I got more and more curious about the person themselves and the project. And I wanted to help them because in my marketing career, I had so many women coming into my office and like breaking down and crying and going, I have $5,000. What can you do with it? I'm like, nothing. That is not how marketing works. You keep your money and please don't give it to anybody else because this is not what you do. And I wanted to help them before they got to that point where they got to that desperation instead of just sending them out back to the world. And because I've been there, I've been in the world of desperation in my business. I've hit rock bottom where I thought everything, like nothing was working. And I was spending my days crying. And I wanted to help people not get to that point because it's lonely at the bottom. I'd rather not people get there.
So, Amy, your health word is clarity. Let's dive into that a little bit more and what clarity is and how did you get to that being your health word?
Clarity is my health word because without clarity, I have burned out 3 times with massive health consequences to those burnouts, mainly because I wasn't paying attention to what I wanted in life. I was just doing the daily grind and like, okay, here's my to-do list. I'll get it done. Actually, I was way too aggressive with my to-do list, never got them done. And it was so much pressure and stress I was putting on myself. But it was because I wasn't clear on what I wanted, the projects I wanted to work on, the clients I wanted to work with. I just took everything and anything because I was like, sure, I'll do that. And there were some times where I'm like, I have no idea how to do that. Why did I say yes? And it would be like the nightmare job. And you're like, this wasn't worth the money. And now I'm so stressed out. So for me, clarity is huge because that moment of clarity came in those darkest moments for me. When I was crying in my office, going, I'm ready to walk away. I no longer want my life. And how did I get here? How did I make this transition to this point in my life where I'm like, I don't identify myself. I want to run away. And it was because of all the little actions I had taken, even though it was a car accident that was my husband was involved in, that had created this existence. It was also the actions I had to take and the clarity of understanding that it wasn't his fault either. So what was my actions, my responsibility to figure out how to get myself back out of that situation? Nobody was going to come and save me. It was me that had to save me. And that clarity of self and that understanding and sitting there going, this is really hard to like really go, okay, I made that mistake. Yep, that was me. I believe that money is always being able to be made. So I didn't save any money because there's always more money to be made. And well, you need a savings in business in order for these situations that come up that you don't expect. I didn't believe my world could be flipped upside down in 3 seconds. 3 seconds when a car couldn't stop in the ice and slid into my husband, making him unable to work for over a year. And 3 years with a head injury. And guess what? All his knowledge was trapped in his brain and I couldn't get it out. I did not deal with conflict well. So I avoided every phone call that somebody's like, where's the project? I don't know. I'm going to, please don't call me. Please don't recognize what's happening. And I also recognize with clarity, I didn't know how to ask for help. I was taught, I was a farm girl. I worked on a dairy farm since I was 8 years old. And I was taught you just do the work. Does not matter if you are sick, if you are injured, if you just don't want to do it, it does not matter. You do the work and you don't ask for help. You just figure it out on your own because everybody else is working too. So in that situation, I found all of these beliefs about myself, the clarity of what was happening in that moment. I'm like, oh crap, I never asked for help. Even after a year of dealing with all of the pain, all of the conflicts, I still didn't even tell people what was going on. I chose to hide. And it was the worst thing I could have done. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to even, I ended up having to go on to state insurance because I was not working. I was taking care of my husband. I was taking him to medical treatments. It hurt my pride so much to do that. And it took me too long to make that choice. That's what I talk about clarity. At that point, I should have said, my health is more important than my pride. The clarity of self of what do I want to do and how do I get myself out of this took me far too long. It's those moments that I found who I was. And it was not in a spot I ever thought I would be in to be able to be like, this is the greatest moment of my life. Yay. No, it's the darkest moment of my life. But I'm okay with that now. And that's my journey.
And it's so interesting. I mean, I'm visualizing a tea kettle, that boiling that's going on inside, but the tea kettle is inside, it's not outside. That screaming is only happening on the inside. You haven't let it out yet, to just, like you said, ask for help. And sometimes others are there for us to give us a hand. We don't even know it, to give us some of that clarity.
Yes. And it's really where you find out who is your friends, like who really has your back and who's really important to let into the room because we're all mirrors of each other, but I didn't want to see it. I was in so much denial. I was like, no, I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. I'm good. I'm good. And they're like, you're not good. you know? So it's really great to have supportive people around you to say, I'm calling you out on your bullshit. You're not good. Tell me what's happening.
And That right there tells me you're a strong woman because we do that, don't we? We just kind of, oh, okay, I got this. I got this. I got this.
It's it's a sense of pride not to let anybody know our mess. Oh gosh, no. We don't even let people in our homes when it's a little bit messy. Why would we show our mess of our lives? Oh God, no.
So was there someone in particular during that time that actually called you out and said, come on?
Yeah, actually, I befriended a guy in the office I was renting at the time, and he's much younger than me, but we got along so well. And there was a point where I was ready to leave my husband, and I'm like, I don't know what to do, Matt. I am so beyond knowing what to do. I am literally crying at his house, and I'm like, I've talked to him so much. He goes, no, I mean, have you really talked to him? I'm like, yeah, of course I have. He goes, not like a girl. Did you talk to him like a dude would talk to another guy? Like seriously, to the point, direct, and like, this is what's going to happen. And I'm like, no. Like, why would I do that? And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And we went for a walk, and I'm like, this is what's happening. If you don't start trying, I'm leaving, and I'm leaving very soon. My husband just stopped. Like he was so shocked. And what his pain and his world was so involved in his own self, he had no concept of what was happening to me and the impact it was having. And I told him, like, if you are willing to try, I am all in with you. That moment changed our entire trajectory. He started trying. He started giving, like, going, what do you need? And it didn't even matter if it was like the simplest thing or just asking. It was involving me in his life and letting me into his pain, because otherwise he was shutting me out as well. To this day, I always tell my friend Matt, I'm like, thank you for saving my marriage, my career, and just keeping me where the life I needed to be and giving me the strength to do so. And I never would have thought that was the vice that was going to get there.
Like you said, 3 seconds. We're on this journey and suddenly, bam. I can't imagine what you went through. I mean, because overnight you have to deal with it. And then coming out on the other side of that tunnel, I mean, that's beautiful. Like, I almost see, again, here I am visualizing, that light at the end of the tunnel where the clarity started to step in.
Yeah. And that clarity of direct communication came from that moment as well. I grew up in the Midwest where we're trying to be that Minnesota nice and talk around the situation, and maybe they'll catch on if we keep talking about it, right? And it wasn't working. But that direct communication to tell him exactly how I was feeling and what was going to happen is what clicked. And it was like, it's not because it's a dude, right? Talking that way. It was just plain out communication that I was avoiding because I didn't want to hurt my husband's feelings. I loved him to that day. And even though it was so ready to be done, I didn't want to hurt him.
Have you passed on that lesson to others?
Yeah, I would say, telling people, like it's getting in a situation always with like family or a business client where they're, especially business clients, when we're talking employee relations, I'm like, you're talking around the situation. You need to tell them exactly what's happening or what you want from them because they're not getting it. They're not understanding what you want. So they're doing everything you don't want because you're talking around the subjects. And we do it naturally because we want to be nice. And I always say, like, eliminate nice out of your communication and be kind. There's a difference. Nice can be passive aggressive. Nice can be kind. Nice can be sarcastic. It can be all of these things, right? But kindness cannot be faked. It's genuine. You can't be kind and angry at the same time. It doesn't work that way. So I've eliminated nice out of my vocabulary, just like I've eliminated hope. Like, I hope I can do this. Nope, I will do this. I've eliminated both of those words where were kind of they were part of my vocabulary prior to the accident. They do not serve me well now.
And there it is, a clear message that We will grumble when somebody isn't doing what we want them to do. I'm like, oh, but did you ask them? Did you tell them? You just assumed they were going to do it. I just listened to something from Brene Brown, and that was one of the things she's like, oh, he didn't do the dishes. She goes, but then I realized I didn't ask him to do the dishes.
Right? Or you're like, well, that would be really nice of you if you did. Well, what is that? Like, there's that nice, right? You know, instead of just saying, could you please clean the dishes up? I would really appreciate that because I'm having a really hard day today. Oh, of course. I've had to learn how to communicate more effectively and in simple language. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, you don't need to be fancy talking our communication.
So if there's one type of advice that you would give about clarity to someone, what would that advice be?
It is a lifetime exploration. Every single time I think I got it figured out, some situation will come and I'm like, oh, there it is again. I got to figure this out, right? It's like, and I love the people who are lifelong learners. It's like be a lifelong learner of yourself, understanding that clarity because every moment we have gets us to a different place. And we get to choose where that goes. And you get to be self-expressive. And why not do it in a way that enlightens you, that propels you into a place where you just love who you are? Because the more I get clear about myself, the more I love myself. But it is a lifetime journey to do so. And I'm okay with that.
Amy, your wealth word is courage. Time to dig into this one.
I know. And I thought about it, I'm like, because courage is such an important word in my life. Because I tend to want to hide. That's my natural, like, if there's a conflict, I want to hide. And when I hide, nothing happens. Nothing comes into my life for good or bad. There's just nothing, right? And for me, wealth is opportunities. It's the opportunities to be able to travel, to be able to talk to people around the world. It's um the people in my life are usually my biggest wealth because I'm super curious about people. And I think on a whole, people are amazing and interesting. And if I was too afraid to communicate, which I used to be super shy and I could never talk to anybody. Um, so it was the courage. It was the courage to wake up in the morning, go, I have something to give. I have something to do today that has meaning and purpose. What is that going to be? To me, that brings all the wealth in. It brings in financial wealth, amazing friends around the world. It brings in travel and exploration. It brings in all of these things that just light me up. And to me, that's why the courage to take action is my wealth word.
And courage is a great word. It's funny because in my mindfulness, one of the things that I talk about, like sometimes, just like you said, waking up in the morning, for some people it takes courage because they don't know what's going to happen in their day. They're scared of that day, or the courage to walk in, do a presentation in front of people, the courage to speak in a foreign language when you go to another country. I'm like, there's so many levels of courage. And you just go, yep, suck it up. We got to do this.
Yeah. And then it's like you get to do this, right? And that's the beauty of it is without doing something, you don't get anything in return. And I learned that early on, like, okay, there's an exchange, but I have to have that courage to put that exchange into play. And that's how I see my wealth is like, I can stay where I am and do absolutely nothing. Like it's just not fun. Like it doesn't bring everything I want to do in the world and experience. But yeah, well, to me, I've never been driven by money. And I had to figure out what wealth meant to me because it was not a driver of money. But of course, money drives everything else that I like to do. So that had to be part of the conversation, right? But I had to identify that what was it I really wanted. And money is never what I put on my goals because it's not what drives me. And that's what I think people as business owners think it always has to be a money driver. And it's not. If it does not drive you, you will not do a lot of courageous action in order to achieve it because it's not important to you. What is important to you and put those on your goals? What are the actions that you need to do to create those goals to achieve what you really want?
And courage doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be cliff diving.
Which I'll never do, by the way. I'm terrified of heights. But yes, it's just, it could be a small little thing, like I'm going to talk to one new person today. That's it. That's all it needs to be. Or it could be as simple as, I want to go out for a walk daily. I'm going to get up in a half an hour early and start walking. That's a courageous action. If that's not something you're used to doing, then that is courageous. That is something different that you are incorporating into your life.
And I think you said it perfectly right there, is the courageousness and the other side. Because once you have gone through that fear and gotten to the other side, the things that you gain, you can't even know until you're on the other side.
That is very true. And that's a part of it. Why is it so? It's courageous because you don't know what's on the other side. And for me, like I was terrified of public speaking. Like I literally would start shaking and like sweat would be pouring down my face and I would be tapping my foot. It was a really bad habit. And I would just be pacing and it was horrible, right? And my voice would be quivering. And it was when I went through everything, got the clarity of myself, it was like, why is this happening? Where did this come from? This is a learned behavior because I was a dynamic, energetic kid that was like all about me. And I could show, like I was on stage somewhere between that and where I was, something had happened. Somewhere I believed something different. And I had to figure that out. And it was my mother had told me once when she was really just irritated with me. She's like, Amy, your voice is irritating and annoying, and you need to stop talking. And I'm like, how I heard that was the sound of my voice is irritating and annoying. Not my actions that I was doing at that moment to probably like just annoy the crap out of her, right? Like every little kid does to their parent. But to me, I took that on fully, wholeheartedly. My mom to this day is like, I don't remember saying that. I go, I know you didn't mean it. It was never your intention. But a child cannot decipher that correctly. And I took that on to the point where I stopped talking. I stopped engaging. I went to a school with 90 people. I grew up with them from kindergarten to graduation. I met with somebody here. I'm 2 hours away from my hometown. She goes, I don't remember you. I'm like, what do you mean you don't remember me? We've all grown up together. Like we knew each other. I knew my entire grade. And she goes, I can't remember you in any of my classes. I can't remember you in any situations. That's how well I stopped talking and hid because I was afraid of my own voice. And it's partly why I became a voice coach. It's why I became a story coach because I had to learn it myself because I was so terrified of a story that I would tell you something really, really quickly, really, really fast, and hopefully you got it. And then I'm going to stop. And I would sit there. That was not serving me because I was just trying to get the attention off of me as fast as I possibly could. I had to learn how to pause, slow down my talking. I had to learn to love my voice. Those were all my courageous steps that I did. And now I love public speaking. I love telling my story. And I still go in there going, this is so weird. Get up. I'm like, I want to go celebrate afterwards. And my husband's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm good. Let's go out. Like it gives me energy instead of shutting me down. Like you were saying, we don't know what the outcome will be when we try to overcome those small little courageous steps. It was not fast. It was not like, hey, I'm just going to go up on stage and figure this out. I took classes. I had a coach. There were those things I took. And I am so incredibly grateful I had the clarity of self to say, I'm overcoming this fear. And I want to do this. Somebody asked me the other day, how do you overcome fear of public speaking? I go, my need became greater than my fear. That's when I did it. that's when I shared my story. That's when the shame of my story, the accident, going basically not knowing how to even feed myself, how to get groceries, all that shame of that story became more important to tell than the fear itself and the shame itself. That's when you know you're ready to tell your story.
Health, wealth, and happiness. Happiness. Being on the beach before everybody else is and quiet. And look. I took us waters. If you know me, you know where I am. Sarasota. It's my second home. Yes, it is. Happiness. Finding beauty. Living beauty. Sleeping beauty. Oh, just about beauty and nature. Find your happiness. I'm finding it here, right now. Well, hello. Every day. Hello. They found me. Live your best life. Find your happy and go there. Live there. Even if it's part-time. Happiness. I'm Sylvia Torstein.
Amy's happiness word is confidence. As you can tell, she's an extremely confident person. Tell us more about happiness and confidence to you.
Yeah, when I'm feeling confident, that's when I'm happy because I'm doing what I actually love to do. That's what I found is key is yeah, I actually don't own very much. I love being a nomadic entrepreneur. Therefore, I don't own a lot of things. And I'm okay with that. Like I used to think by a successful person owned things. Some people that is really important to them. And I realized it did not make a difference for me. And the confidence to say, I have a really different lifestyle and I'm okay with that. And I'm not going to apologize for it because I remember when we were told my husband's grandma, we were telling her we're selling our house in Fargo. We lived in Fargo for 18 years. We're selling the house. We're going to travel the world and we're going to be nomadic. And she's like, you can't, that you have no right to do that. I'm like, no right to do that? And it was rejecting what I found when I told people, it felt like they were being rejected in how they live their lives. Like what they did was wrong. And I'm like, no, what you did is just what you need to do. But it is not what I want to do. I despise home repairs. Like I was on the second round of my home repairs. I'm like, I am not doing this again. This is not joy. This is not happiness to me. And so I was like, how do I eliminate that from my life? What do I do differently to get that happiness back and that confidence to say, I don't need to be a homeowner. I'm good. I'm totally fine with that. That's what makes me happy. I am so happy I don't have to mow the grass or shovel the snow. I am ecstatic about that, right? And that is not everybody's dream. And I'm okay with that. And there are people that push back. And even the same thing with we don't have children. It wasn't our choice, but we're like, we are okay with this decision. And some people will push back and reject that and get very angry. And I'm like, you having children is amazing. And I would have welcomed them if I could. But I had to find happiness without being a mother. And I had to find that within myself. And I went through a long depression knowing I could not be a mother. But what was the difference I could do in my life? And that's when travel opened up. Like, what can I do? Well, I don't have I don't have restrictions here. Why don't we do this? Because we love it. I love spending time with my nieces and nephews. I pick them up, take them on vacations. I do a lot of things with my nieces and nephews. And every one of my sister's friends are like, oh my God, can we have your sister for just a little while? Like, oh my God, she's like the coolest aunt. I got to play that role. And that was my happiness. That was my confidence to know it's okay. I'm a kick-ass aunt and I love it.
Confidence itself is a complicated relationship.
Ever growing. You're always like, I'm good. And then 2 months later, you're more confident because you did something new.
Exactly. And you look at children have no idea unless it's put into their mind of going, oh, don't do that. But they're just like like, yeah, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump off the tire swing and see where I land.
You're like, how do I get a little bit of that with some, knowledge of what I want? Like, how do you get that excitement? Right? Because they're always excited about it. And you're like, oh, maybe not. Maybe like we just go down a level and try it. Yeah. I love that acknowledge. Like children teach me to play. And that's what I love about children is I sometimes forget to play it. I tend to be a little more serious with myself. And I'm like, wait, I gotta go play. Like my niece is like, what do you want to do on our trip? And she's like, I just want to swim. I'm like, okay. Any clarifying what you want to do? She's like, no, swimming. For 3 days straight, I want to swim. I'm like, in a lake, in a pool, like, what are we doing? Like, she didn't care. So I thought, you know where I want to go? Lake Michigan. Let's go swimming in Lake Michigan. That's what we're doing. But for her, as long as she's swimming, she does not care. Simple. Happiness and just that childlike wonder is where I try to stay, because if I get too serious, I'm not happy. So I have to be playful. And even my husband, after his accident, when he, about 3 or 4 years into it, he got a tattoo of an otter on his arm. And people are like, why an otter? And he's like, because I need to remember to play. I need to remember to have enjoyment in my life. And that was what symbolized it for him.
Do you feel that when you came out of college after you graduated that you were confident at that time?
Oh my God, no. Remember public speaking? Our college had this thing that I always thought was like the torture event. We had portfolio reviews, and we'd have our family, our teachers, our peers, and judges. So a whole room filled, and you had to give your portfolio. I don't even remember it. It was so torture and terrifying, and I couldn't communicate what I wanted because I didn't know. I had no clue what I wanted. I didn't know what kind of company I wanted to work for, nothing. I got the first job, I took it. I didn't even consider not taking it. And it was the worst job I've ever had in my life. It was the last time I took corporate because it was so horrifying, because I was sexually harassed by another female in my office, which I honestly, at 20 years old, had no idea that was even possible. I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. And I don't know what to do. I had no skill set to do it. I had no support from my office. Eventually, we ended up in a screaming match in this cubicle farm of people. And I'm like, I don't know how many people heard us. And I was like, I'm done. All I know is that was my first breakdown, was at that company. I was numb. And I decided to go on my own from that company because I was like, there is nothing worse than this. Even the uncertainty, the scariness of owning your own business cannot be worse than this situation. And I was getting paid like crap, as well. So it wasn't like it was financially super exciting. And because it was my first job, I never looked back. And every time I go, oh my God, being a business owner sucks. Like you have those moments where you're like, this sucks so much. Why did I do this? And I think back of my first job and I'm like, it's still better than that. I can go to sleep at night and not want to cry every single night. So yeah, I was not confident at all when I graduated college. I was kind of a follower at that time. What somebody said and asked, I did it. I was a yes girl. That's the other thing I find. More confident I am, the more I can say no. Back then, you're like, I was put on a war team for a proposal, and that's what made me collapse. They're like, can you do this? I'm like, sure, of course I can do this. For 3 months straight, I had a total of 4 days off. That was including my birthday and weekends. I worked from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. My husband would bring me supper so he could actually see me. I collapsed on the job the last day of the proposal, and I was hysterically coming in and out of consciousness, crying, and I had no idea what I was saying, and I had to be drove home, and I should have gone to the hospital. But I never said no. I never asked for help. I just kept doing the work because that was what was asked of me. So I will never go back to that version of me because it wasn't healthy and it was not serving me in any way.
I think that's an amazing story because there it is, the confidence to say no. Because I know even in my own life, when I kind of said, okay, I've taken care of so many people throughout my life, and it's time to start taking care of me, I personally noticed how my own confidence started to rise because the power of no.
Isn't that amazing? And you're taught like never to say no. Like as a kid, you're like, you can't say no to mom, right? Like that is not a thing you do. And but the no is such a powerful word. And I love that you're doing that. You're taking time for yourself to say, no, this is what I need. I need to fill me up first. And when I'm full, I can help others or I can support others because I don't even help others. I support others. I see others and I can have a great conversation or, you know, give them a tool that can help them. But if I'm depleted, there is nothing left for me to give. So I love that you're taking that into your life. And I think every woman should do that is say, nope, it's me. I am always a supporter of being selfish with self. Be selfish with yourself and your time because you don't get it back. You don't get your health back and you do not get your time back.
No, and it's interesting, I'm seeing the theme here with your words that every conflict or every thing that seems like it's going to keep you back, you will come through with clarity, courage, and confidence at the end, even if it doesn't feel like it at that moment.
Yes. And I always say opportunities show up. They look, if you pass it, it'll come up again. It's kind of like the person like, you need to quit. You really, really need to quit your job. And you're like, oh, I really hate this job. And I'm like, oh, I should do it now. And then you let it go. Eventually, I swear to God, every time the universe will answer and go, you're fired. But unfortunately, instead of making it a power removal, like I chose to do this. I chose myself and removing myself from the situation like I did at my first job, right? If I would have been fired, that would have took the power away from me because somebody else made that choice for me. And I didn't choose me. And I chose myself in that when I quit. That was a very first step as an adult that I took charge of my own life and said, my life is more or is worth more than this job. And that was clarity. And I didn't understand what that meant until much later when I kind of reflected back on it and go, what happened there? And I learned so many lessons in that first job that I'm grateful for, even though it was very torturous. But I would never, I would do it again for the same results, if that makes sense, because it made me who I am. That's the thing. It's like all those things make you who you are. And when you start to love that part of you, even the parts that suck, it becomes okay. And yeah, I would always go back to that job. It brought me to where I was. And I think about it and like the reason I got that job, my car broke down and I couldn't leave it, my husband's grandparents' house. So I looked at the paper and got the job. Something was in play for me to get that job. And then you look at the threads that happened because I moved to Fargo, the friends I made, the business I built, all of that happened because of a car didn't start and I got that job. So I can't really reject that first job because it gave me all these extra amazing things afterwards. But it was because I had the courage to stand up for myself and have the confidence to say, no more. I matter more.
Amy, if you could give the gift of health, wealth, or happiness to someone or anyone, which would you give and why?
I would say health, without a doubt, because without our health, we can't be happy. We can't be wealthy. It really needs to start with ourselves. And that's the beauty of it. Like we are the most important person in our world, and we need to treat ourselves as the most important person in the world. And our health is such a big part of that.
All right, Amy, here is our question from the previous guest.
What can be one act of kindness which you would like to inculcate in your regimen?
It's hard because I'm already doing it. I love to smile. Honest to God, I learned early on the power of a smile to somebody, to a stranger, and I can't not smile to people. And because I was in Pennsylvania and I was at a gas station, me and my husband just had a huge fight. And I was like, I'm gonna go in and get food. And I walked out of the car and I was like, I'm leaving, I'm gonna go walk this off. And there was a guy taking out the trash and I smiled at him. I genuinely smile because I'm like, I can. And I thought, okay. And then I'm walking around the store a little bit while later. I'm like, hi. And I smiled again. And a little bit later, he came up and he talked to me. And I'm like, hi, like at first you just don't know. And he's like, I have to tell you, thank you. And I'm like, for what? He's like, you acknowledged me and you smiled at me. Most people don't even notice that I'm there. Like I'm invisible because I'm taking out, and you did it when I was taking out the trash. I want you to know how much that meant to me. And that's when I realized the power of a smile. And it can make or break somebody's day by just not being acknowledged. So when we see people, smile, look them in the eye, and just let them know that you see them.
I absolutely do not want to stop talking to you. I want to keep this conversation going. Let's have a sleepover.
Good. Someday we'll schedule that for sure. Yes.
You have been an amazing guest. Thank you for sharing your stories with me and with everyone here today. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Of course, it's been a pleasure to be here talking with you as well, because I think you're a lot of fun.
I try.
Of course you try. But it's not trying when you actually it is. You are, right? We are fun ladies.
We are. And I would love to have you back on one of our panels if we could see your smiling face again.
That would be lovely. I would totally be a great honor to do so.
Great. So thank you, Amy.
Thank you.